Hello, everyone. This is the third podcast after two successful podcasts with amazing friends of mine, and this one is quite special for me, and that is because it is out of the whole topic of art. Here we talk more about studies and acquisition of skills, how you deal with life and other topics. So I have Tawhid and Fatima Enam. How are you guys?
We're good. We've been alright. How have you been recently?
Just hustling with the podcast. I literally posted one podcast today, and here I am with another one.
That's
It's
great, man.
been
The
turning
brand's
out
good.
good.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah. Tawheed, please introduce yourself to us peasants.
Peasants, how are you guys peasants? Okay, I'm pretty sure most of the people, like your audience, already know me. But for
Yes.
those of you who don't, I'm Tawhidul Islam. I'm 19 years old and I'm from Bangladesh. My ethnicity is a bit complicated, so I won't get into that. And I attend the same school as Atif. That's all I have to say for now.
Fatima.
Well, I'm pretty low-key, so I'm Fatima Enam. I'm 18 and I also attend the same school. I'm also from Bangladesh.
So, both of the guests today are from the same school, right? So, I just, since my audience is mostly my school friends, so I'd simply ask you, how's A levels for you right now? In these years, since us guys, we have had it quite complicated because of COVID and everything. So, I just want to know about your experience. So, you guys can do Tawheed first, Fatima second, and you just share your experience with me.
Okay, so I'll start. Regarding my experience with A levels, do you mean like the first and second year or just this current year? As in my second academic year in A levels?
You can start from the first one because we started off nice, but then due to COVID, everything literally fell apart. So it's good if you just talk about everything that you have gone through.
In our school, you can't really take for those of you who don't attend our school, you can't really take 4 A levels at once. But there's an option where you do 2 complete A levels in 1 year and 2 complete A levels in the second year. So that's the option I went for, and Fatima went for the same option. And the first year, because I didn't know what was coming up, I was told that A levels is very difficult, and doing both the whole thing in just 1 year is very hectic if you think about it. So I didn't know what to expect, and for the first few weeks, it did feel like a huge jump from IGCSE to A levels. So it was very difficult to cope up. But once I started understanding, thank God for blessed teachers like Sir Tom, Miss Smith.
Lead out.
Miss Smith. Okay, look, Miss Smith was a bit biased towards the girls, but let's not get into that. But apart from that, yeah, I was able to catch up, and soon I developed an affection and affinity for both the subjects that I was doing. And this went on until I think February, when the first news of COVID hit our school. And that's when we had to take precautions and think about what if there's a lockdown, what we do. Personally, the lockdown and the COVID situation affecting the grades of many, it personally hasn't affected me really, because I'm a person that prefers to grind from the get-go rather than cramming in everything at the final minute. So from day one, I was grinding, and that really didn't have an effect on my final grade. Year 2 was a bit unique for A levels because we attended online classes, and the first week was horrible from what I can say. The teachers were untrained, and that's pretty much it. The teachers were untrained, and we were so uninformed about everything. Every day we woke up with a huge quantity of uncertainty whether class would happen today or not. The first day I went no class. Second day I had online class, no class, because teachers couldn't conduct it online. It got better with time, but I still prefer on-site classes, and it's mainly because of the physics. Yeah, I prefer it more because I realized that because of being holed up at home the entire time, it just creates a downward spiral. I don't know of what exactly, but it creates a downward spiral. I noticed that my performance this year has been worse than last year, relatively. But alhamdulillah, it's still going all well. That's all I have to say for now.
Damn. Okay, so it's. I mean, like, you don't get that environment at home at all, okay?
Yeah.
Now, Fatima, what do you have to say about it?
Well, for me, the first year was actually pretty good. I actually loved it very much because I started off with maths and physics, and maths was my favorite. So, the first few weeks, it was actually a bit difficult because I felt like I was lagging behind. Many of my classmates were understanding well, performing well, but I felt like I struggled a bit, and I actually worried a lot about what my teachers thought of me. So that was kind of putting me down. But eventually, around I guess the winter assessments, things are getting better for me. I could focus, and I guess the efforts from practice sort of compiled, and I got better over time. But then when the whole COVID thing started in school, I was actually a bit upset or down by it because most of my friends were leaving that year, and I was upset that I couldn't see them. And especially that we wouldn't have graduation because it sounds so cool when it's like in sixth form, but we didn't have that. And instead, we had that something we had to make do coming to school, just taking certificates and taking pictures, which wasn't too great, but I guess it was better than nothing. And then I guess the second year, honestly, it was really bad. In the beginning, it was really difficult for me. I absolutely hated online classes, and I was a distance learning student at first, so I didn't come to school whatsoever because I have some people uh, who are quite prone to the virus and everything. So I stayed home and I dragged myself out of bed every single day. And it was a very bad habit, but I used to wake up 5 minutes before class because I was really tired. Um, and then I would sit down to class waiting for the teachers to try and figure out what's happening. We suffered so much with problems like audio quality and then video, and like no one knew how to work around this. And we had new classmates, and I did not know anyone. It was weird. It felt empty. It felt like it wasn't actually happening. But I just had to get used to it eventually. And the learning was really difficult because I felt like there were so many distractions, and everyone else from home was like working at home. So there were a lot of distractions at home as well. Trying to focus was very difficult. The Wi-Fi connection was terrible. But I had to make do. And I had a lot going on actually during that time. But I tried to manage a bit. I didn't perform too well on the first few exams, but I guess everyone started getting used to how things were, and that's when it started slowly becoming better. Right now, I'm surviving, I suppose. I could do better if the situation was better, but I feel like there's just so much going on that I can't really expect too much right now.
I see. Okay, so now I want to let my audience know that, mashallah, both of these guests are good at studying, okay? And it's not because they're born smart or something. I have seen that hustle. At least in Tawheed, I know that I've seen that hustle since, grade 9. But he has been on it, from a long time. So, I really appreciate that and look up to you guys a lot because of this. Because me personally, if you if you ask me, okay, so back in year 12, it was actually very fun for me. Like, with the whole studies thing, first of all, we were blessed with our math teacher who was like really good at explaining because he understood what our flaws were, right? He was that one teacher who, like, that favorite teacher person, right?
You mean Sir Fahad?
Yes, Sir Fahad. He was like amazing. He just knew what our problems were and he knew how to solve them, right? So he was like really good at it. And math was literally the subject we would study in class, and at home we would simply solve past paper, and that would be more than enough. Math was that good for us at the start of the year 12. Later he left the school and a lot of things happened, but let's not discuss that. Anyway, so other subjects, however, IT and physics, I don't know what happened to me, but in A levels, I was actually grinding too much with the studies part, right? So much that at the end of year 12, like January, I think January, when your mocks are nearby, but you just have it in your mind that mocks are nearby. At that time, I was like burnout, khalas, I cannot study anymore. And I'll be very honest, due to a lot of things that were happening, the personal stuff like in my life, I did not study as much. And honestly, not gonna lie, COVID to me was some sort of blessing because I still don't know how to do statistics, any of it. I never studied statistics. First of all, I burnt out, and secondly, it's because the teacher we had, I'm not gonna drop any names or anything, but all of the students know. But like, this teacher was simply teaching himself throughout the whole thing, you know. So it was like a teacher not qualified at all, and it's not just that I hate teacher. I just know when it's not a good teacher, right? So as a student,
For math, you mean, right?
yeah, for maths, this sir was like just total. I don't know what to say, man.
Yeah, I remember the one time I walked into your class, that pretty much represented the whole thing.
Yeah.
Was it that 40 questions on the board or something?
Yeah, he had 40 textbook questions on the board, and the only thing I saw was someone throwing a calculator at the desk.
I remember that.
Look, there were 40 questions on the board, but he solved only 1 and 2 periods, okay?
Oh god.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So it was like math is gone, okay, it is out of the equation. Physics, however, I've always loved physics, okay, like this personal, because I don't know, I think I've just watched too many podcasts, but physics is something I understand. So physics, regardless of who my teacher was, I was just studying IT as well. So it was good until I realized I messed up. So, this whole year 12 ends, and it's like Cambridge let us know that, okay, we are not counting these marks, so A levels will be counted, and all of that, right? Now, I didn't realize actually, I was just talking to my friend, and he told me that, Atif, if you want to study in Pakistan, engineering, any sort of engineering, you need chemistry. Otherwise, you cannot study engineering in Pakistan. And now the whole situation around the world was such that I had nowhere to go other than Pakistan. I could not think of UK, Canada, anything like that. COVID is like, Pakistan is my go-to because of COVID. So now I'm doing 1 year Chem. It's been online and blended learning. So quite messed up. Honestly, I'll say one thing. Right now I feel quite comfortable, but it's not that I'm good at any of these subjects, but I have just messed up big time because physics, start of the year, we had the teacher that we had for maths last year, that sort of teacher. And this teacher literally taught us like 7 to 8 chapters, and none of these students understand anything because this teacher simply was teaching himself. He is like the part 2 of that. So physics, there is pressure from physics, there is pressure from 1 year chemistry, out of which it's like the AS level I have to do it myself, because since it's my choice to change subject mid-year, so it's all on me that I have to do it by myself, right? So there's pressure from that. Then A2 chemistry. And math, alhamdulillah, okay, math, I'll say Miss Smitha, I don't know what your experience have been like, but she has been a nice teacher at least. That's, I can say, out of every experience that I'm having right now, she has been the nicest, okay? So, alhamdulillah, math is cool. But yeah, I'm literally, it's like I'm walking in a forest and it's all foggy, but I'm just going and I'm like, it's just happening. Everything is just happening and it's just a very slow pace for me. So, COVID kind of helped me, kind of effed over things for me. You know how they say a blessing and a curse? Something like that. Yeah. So, I'm in that phase with COVID. And how the whole structure of school changed. But okay, so now I want to know, like, since COVID is that common ground for us, because our experiences, they are all revolving around that. Is there anything you do personally to deal with that demotivation, or that when you're at home, it's a totally different environment? You have your parents don't think you're at school. Your parents think it's a normal day and they treat you like it. Okay, for most of the people. So other than, even if it's not parents, in general, if there is any sort of demotivation, how do you deal with it?
Demotivation. Now that is something I don't really have the perfect answer to, but it's more of just finding something and reward. How it works for me is, I set myself a reward for any task I do. So let's say I need to do my bed, right? It may be very demotivating. First thing to do right after waking up, you haven't stretched, you haven't freshened up or whatever. But I tell myself that the reward is that later, when I come back to this bed, I at least don't have to look at it, as if it's unmade. So the bed will be made for me the next time I come to bed. So I set myself mini rewards for everything, anything and everything. And one other thing I have to say about motivation is that it isn't always there. Like, sometimes you just have to work on something without the motivation being there. And it's simply because you're obligated to do it. For instance, like whenever like I practice biology, I literally have no motivation to do it. I like practicing and doing calculations, logical thinking, and so on. But I hate memorizing things and regurgitating information, like how you have to study biology. So majority of the times I'm not really motivated to study biology. However, I tell myself that I have to do it. Like, there's no way I can accept failure. I'd rather accept failure than not like the idea of doing biology right now. So I just tell myself it's obligatory and I have to do it right now. If I don't, then something worse is gonna happen. And once you start, once you get into the workflow, it's always the first 5 seconds, not seconds, sorry, first 5 minutes that's difficult. And after that, you just get into a flow until you hit that roadblock. For those of you who take chemistry, it's similar to like an activation energy. That first 5 minutes of your task is the activation energy. Once you achieve that first 5 minutes, the reaction just completes itself, like towards the rest of the path or reaction pathway. I hope that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm taking notes right now.
Damn, why?
Fatima, for you?
Well, actually, for me, I've been suffering from this very much, especially the past few days. And I've actually been looking for any household chores to do as an excuse to not study, because I've been dreading biology so much. I absolutely hate the last few chapters we're currently doing, or we're finished, because it's all memorizing and a bunch of different facts, which I really don't like learning, because I feel like there's no use to it. But I think the only thing that's keeping me going is the standards I put up for myself. I sort of get gratification from achieving and getting good grades. So it's a bit difficult trying to do that, like to get the good grades when I don't feel like putting any of the work into it because I dislike the subject. But I don't want to bring myself down. Like, I don't think this is a good idea. I do not whatsoever suggest doing this, but because I have such high expectations for myself, I force myself to do what I need to. And regarding what Tawhidul said, the first 5 minutes actually being the most difficult part, I sort of agree, but my personal opinion is that, for me at least, for example, if I'm studying one chapter from biology, so that chapter can have many subsections. So even if I start and I overcome that first 5 minutes, the most difficult part, or basically just starting, anytime I finish one subtopic, I just think to myself that I don't want to do this anymore. So I actually suffer that first 5 minutes of difficulty thing throughout. And it's really difficult to continue doing it, but I tell myself that, at least if I grind for these many hours, it'll be worth it in the end. At the end of the day, I can have some sort of reward system so that it doesn't feel like my entire day was a waste. Because I actually absolutely hate the feeling of unproductivity or feeling like I could have done something else, because I always sort of regret my time if I don't spend it wisely.
So, looking for excuses kind of thing you said, Fatima, I relate with that a lot. Okay, so, I do actually have a lot of things to work at other than school things. So, my excuse to teacher is that, Miss, I have a life out of school. This is literally what I tell them. But I kind of realized that, at times I'm just looking for work outside school just so that I don't have to study. And, at this point, most of us are, I feel like we are just uncertain, that is it even worth it? Do we even have to study? Like, I mean, I don't know about you guys personally, but I feel like, there's this aroma around us that is just uncertainty, pure uncertainty, and we just don't know how to get over it. We're just like there standing, we're like, what next? do we need to study?
Yeah.
We like before the Cambridge news came about cancellation of exams and everything, that it's not being cancelled. Deep down, we were just hoping that it gets cancelled and we'll have an excuse to not study.
Yeah.
So I feel like this uncertainty is really just one of the biggest factor, because I've realized one thing, that a lot of times when you give direction to people, it's easier for them to walk at it. It's like do and directed kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is like one of those things that everyone can have their own excuse, but by the end of the day, they do have to realize that, look, whatever happens, by the end of the day, no university is going to be lenient towards me because of COVID. They are going to keep their standards, so I better keep my standards too.
I think in the long run, like whatever you said about guiding, someone being there to guide you, like as a child, that's true. However, I don't think so it's necessary for everyone else to set a guidance for you. In life, this is a very bad metaphor, but in life, you are your own dog. You pull your own collar. You don't have someone else pull it for you.
That is
That is the ideology that I live by. So I never really waited for Cambridge to give me a guideline. The exams will happen this time or not. Because if it doesn't, what's the most probable event? They'll use our mock grades to judge or predict a grade. And so I just gotta like grind. And okay, fine. If they don't use our mock grades, then they'll use the grades that we've gotten throughout the whole year, right? I gotta grind for every single one of them.
Yeah.
That's the ideology that I live by. I don't need a guidance from other people. Like, unless I absolutely need it, I don't really need it most times. So I just pull my own color, research for myself. And
yeah. But then at the same time, I do feel like you are one of those, like people who have thought it through and, you live by it. But we do have...
Yeah, I mean, everyone actually has to think it through. You can't just give an excuse that, oh, he's thought it through, I haven't. Like, the question here isn't that you have, like, how do I say this? The fact here isn't you haven't thought it through. It's more of a question, why haven't you thought it through? If he can do it, so can you. Most of the times. Again, some people cannot, I understand that, but most of the times, if someone can do it, you can too.
Yeah.
Right?
But like, okay, so here's, if I were to, oppose that idea completely, I would say that, since, okay, so me personally, I'm a believer that, to each their own, like, so no two situations are ever the same. So, you having this set of skills that, just saying that, you believing that, okay, you have to think it through, there is no other way or something. Or there could be another way, but this is your way at least, that, you have to think it through. But a lot of people right now, they're not even over their, childhood memories and shit to even think about what to do in future. Maybe, because they have been so pampered in their life, this, that. So it's like, at the same time, if you have, someone to guide you, because I know people who are like 24, 26, and they haven't thought it through. They're still just living by this thing. When they go for a job or something, they're like, I'll do anything as long as it pays. Like, that's their mentality towards the whole idea, of working in general. So, this is why I say that you thought it through, because I know people who are at their mid-20s or like more than that, and it's like majority haven't thought it through. So I guess we do need, someone who can at least tell you, okay, you could at least suggest that, okay, this could be your next step. I'm not saying that tell Atif that, Atif, since you are like this, you should do this. But in general, like, Atif, you could try that, you could try this, so Atif can make his mind, okay, Atif, you can do this, Atif, you can do that, kind of thing.
About this thinking through idea, I feel like, okay, at least between Tawhidul, for example, and any other person that's actually having difficulty thinking things through, with Tawhidul, he knows that he needs to get certain things done. Like, for example, there's a goal and he knows the path he needs to take. He doesn't let other obstructions come in the way. But I feel like I myself actually have suffered through this. where I let other problems get in the way. Like, I know the path to go to my goal, but I have so many other things that I keep thinking about, like, wait, what if this happens? What if that happens? Oh, I don't feel like doing it anymore because of all of these other side reasons, despite knowing how exactly I can get to my goal. I feel like there are a lot of people that suffer with that
Yes.
issue too, because I've suffered from that. But the main idea is, if you know what you need to do, just go ahead and do it. Don't let the other ideas, which you don't even know whether they're going to happen or not, get in the way. Just go ahead and
I
start.
think there's this quote, I think, I don't remember, but our schools usually have it on their banners and stuff. It's like, an uncertain decision. No, uncertainty kills more than a bad decision, basically. So,
Yeah. Also, regarding what you said, like some people might not be able to do it at the same time, and some people still being unsure, in their mid-20s. Something that everyone I think has to accept is that everyone has their own time.
Yeah,
Just because
definitely.
one person is able to do it at an early age doesn't mean that another person should be able to do it at an early age. It's better if they can, but everyone has their own
yeah,
circumstances and their own lives. Even if you live even if you're born as identical twins, no pun intended, even if you're born as identical twins, even if you live the same life and get the same things, there is no rule anywhere, no law anywhere that states that because they live the same life or pretty much are the same individual, they will develop certain characteristics or behave in
true,
certain ways
true.
at the same time. There's no law like this. So everyone has their own time, and that
Yeah,
you must respect. But it's obviously true that there's some things that you must try doing. And like what Fatima said, just think about what you have to get done instead of having distracting secondary thoughts.
there's this quote. I Look, I will keep on adding quotes, but I won't know who made that quote. Okay.
It's fine.
So yeah,
And
so
just
the
say
quote
Google.
is hustle at your own pace, but hustle,
Did you
hustle,
just say
hustle,
Hassan?
Hustle, hustle.
hustle at your.
Okay, Hassan.
I heard Hassan at first too.
Yeah, I heard Hassan as well. Hassan at your own pace.
So hustle at your own pace, but keep hustling. Do not stop. People stop. You shouldn't be that
Yeah.
full stop.
Yeah, people compared like their paces, and that's one reason why they stop. But really, everyone has their own time for
Yeah.
doing everything. You shouldn't compare.
I think I suffer from quite the opposite. I have a paranoia. Okay, I don't want to sound cocky, but I try to be on top of my game and
Yeah.
better than everyone else, right? And so majority of the times, like when we're doing something in class, I've already completed beforehand, okay? And because I've already kept up to date with class and already practiced much more, at the end of at the very end, when people start, hustling and grinding and stressing everyone else around them out, that's when I get paranoid. Like, yo, they're doing so much and I'm not doing anything
I get
anything
what you mean.
similar. It's like they could be studying 10, 12 hours a day and here I am chilling at 6 and I'm like, what are you doing? Is there something that I'm missing? What I completely forget to acknowledge or consider is that I put in these additional 6 hours way out of them. So I suffer from quite the opposite and I don't really know
I
a solution
mean,
to it. If anyone is there, please
you
give.
cannot really run out of the society. Here's the thing. Now, I said
Yeah.
hustle at your own pace. People believe in that to a certain extent. Now I know that a lot of people who I interact with, they agree with that and they try their best to do that. But by the end of the day, society is always going to be into that equation. Your parents will look at you, your parents will look at your friend, and they will compare. And it's not that they're bad people, it's just that it has been ingrained in their mind, since the start of their life. So you cannot expect anything else from them. So if your parents are so close to you can put you through that, then there's a whole society out there, and world is just cruel, man. It's like very cruel. So you cannot expect society to not play a role into equation. It will always play, no matter what law you put, what standard you set. There will always be this image of yourself. This image is like how you think people look at you. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
suffer from that.
Uh,
It's actually
I've gone
called
through
the
a lot,
spotlight effect.
and I don't really care as much about what people think of me anymore. It used to affect me a lot, and now it just doesn't.
Yeah,
It
it's
just
actually
stopped.
really good that it doesn't anymore. But basically, it's like something known as a spotlight effect, where everyone cares so much about what others might be thinking of them. But one thing you should remind yourself is that the same way you're worrying about what others think of you, they're also worrying the same. They're too busy with their own problems to care too much about how you might appear to them. Like, yeah, sure, in an interview or something, it matters how they think of you, but in the like general terms and everything, like for example, if you have to practice for a play, you have other participants that are also practicing. But let's say you practice and you screw up, the other, you might wonder like, oh my god, what if the others think I'm not good enough for this and all that, blah blah blah. But really, they're worried with their own practice. They don't really care too much to think about
True.
how you've been
They could be
performing.
literally looking at you and go like, "Oh, he messed up. I have to mess up too now." It happens. It's like,
That happens really.
it's not like I
Yeah,
have to
it
mess
does.
up. It's more of that I will end up messing up. That mind. You literally put your
I
mind.
think it actually creates a window of opportunity for the thought that, oh, he messed up, I can mess up as well. There's no
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, something
I
like
think
that.
that's
So
what it creates as
true.
well.
we just expect that
Concurrently.
since everyone is having it, kind of relating, man. Just we all try to relate to a certain extent. Nobody
Yeah.
likes to be.
I mean,
Makes
Okay,
sense.
they could say I enjoy loneliness, all of that. No, you don't. You just are. You need someone to talk to, but you are just putting yourself through that. There's a whole debate you could run through it, but let's not get into that. So with the pace thing, okay, what comes in my mind is also the fact that we students in general, right now, everyone says that grades don't matter, grades this, grades that. This is like some will say it matters, some will say it doesn't. Do you really think it matters? And okay, let's just say it matters. Does your grade correlate with your education? Or like, let's say if someone were supposed to get a bad grade, does that really mean that they are just not good enough? I think people really need to think about it, because a lot of times we just put in the grade factor so much into our studies that I have seen people who think grades. Okay, like when you're solving paper, think of the problem. No, okay, so if I answer with this term, I get 1 mark, but if I use this term, they give me 2 marks. Because I remember, okay, now I'm gonna extend it. So I was solving this physics paper. Okay, it was like gravitational field question. In that, I noticed twice that if you were to use x in place of radius r, you would get an extra mark. But if you were to use r, you wouldn't get the mark. If you use x, you will get a mark. And I was like, what is it about this x? Because I know that if people notice that, they will keep at it that I have to put that x. They will forget about the problem. They will know that I have to put the x, because I know personally to a certain level I will do that too.
Yeah, it's kind of like having definitions in the mark scheme. People
Yeah,
would tend to buy harder.
I think I know what question you're talking about. First
Yeah,
and
I know the
foremost,
same question.
stop looking for your ex. It's
Bro,
gone.
ouch, bro.
I think the
Why you do
question.
this?
I think in the question it was like kind of mentioned, right? That
Yeah, that you have to use.
like they gave you the formula F is equal to G. Okay, no nerd. F is equal to GMM. But in this question, instead of using R squared, they
Yeah, that
used X
question.
squared. And therefore, that is why they expected the candidates to use X squared, because
Yeah,
it's
they-
mentioned in the question. It's like if someone mentions to you, yo, circle the right answer, they'd think, they wouldn't really credit you if you start underlining the right answer, right? You're missing the whole point of the question. Like if you, okay, good, you're intelligent enough to solve the rest, but can you understand
I
the
see.
basics? I think that's why they don't award the mark for the R instead of X over there. And regarding whether grades
ouch.
matter or not, it's a very sensitive topic. And here's what I'll say, and I'll elaborate as well. You can get good grades if you're smart, but good grades doesn't prove you're smart. And regarding whether grades matter or not, it's sort of, I'm not sure how similar it is. Like, I don't know if tests have been carried out or not, but it's similar to luck being like more important than skill. Like, yeah, you could be smart, but you could be smart and still get bad grades. And okay, to cut it short, to make it as simple as possible, grades mitigate chances of failure. Like, yeah, you can still be very successful if you get bad grades, you're not a failure, but you're more likely to get to that stage if you get the good grade. It's similar to, when you bolster your CV or
Yeah.
your resume, the more experience you get, like, yes, there's always that chance that someone whose application is a lot worse than yours
Yeah.
will get in and you won't. And that's luck. But you have to like mitigate that luck as much as possible and make it rely more on your skill. That's what I think is like in relation to grade and success. Like, yes, grades can get you to places with a higher probability than like not relying on your grades well. And regarding application of knowledge and grades, I tend to apply most of my knowledge that I learn, and I actively recall it. Like recently, I think my mom, she had like dyes. She had some dye like solidify on her hands, right? And for those of you who take A-level chemistry, you know that dyes are hydrocarbons and they're joined by an amide linkage, okay? And she was asking me like, how do I get this off? I don't understand. She tried some random remedies that was mentioned online. I recalled instantly that it's joined by an amide linkage, or it's a polyamide, and therefore if you
Yeah.
can hydrolyze it. So I just gave her like warmed water, told her to wash her hands, and it instantly started coming off. And that's actually how I apply my knowledge in most areas in life. Like when I see when I was warming water in the biology lab, it was taking a long time for my water to boil, and the assistant just came up and poured out most of my water. And instead of thinking about, lesser water will heat up faster, I just thought of, the specific heat capacity of water is really high, so the lower the mass, the higher it's like heats up, the more heat energy is, like the delta T will be higher. That's how I think about it. That's how I try to apply my knowledge everywhere so that it doesn't
I
die
see.
off.
That's one way to do it. Yeah, that's amazing, actually.
Yeah, that's really good,
Mashallah, yes,
mashallah.
mashallah. At the same time, I feel like, okay, what you said makes a lot of sense, actually. It's like I don't even have to counter it. People should try to actually apply their knowledge. I just wanted to add to the fact that Tanveer said something similar the other day. I remember me and this other dude, we were having this whole debate about grades and your education in general. It's like, he was like, Atif, you get good grade, you get into good university, higher chances of getting into a job. I'm like, okay, but imagine I get good grades, all of that, but if I cannot really apply my knowledge into real world, then what's the use of any of that A star?
Yeah.
It's literally just paper, right? On the paper. So Tanveer said something similar.
Yeah.
He was like, oh well, Atif, the point you are trying to make is that your grades will give you higher chance of getting into good university, good status, but your knowledge will really help you in the long run and will help you in life in general. So I think people should consider that. I'm not saying that, okay, so now don't worry about your grades. You should, okay? You should start studying. But at the same time, do know that you need to learn how to apply that knowledge too. Because if you're not applying it anywhere, then you are just wasting your brain capacity to a certain extent. To a huge extent, actually.
An African child could have written that.
I wasn't supposed to laugh at it. Okay. Okay, Fatima, what's your take on grades? Is it same or you have more to add?
Well, it's pretty much the same, but just something else I want to add is that, yeah, sure, grades can be really important if you want to get to good places, but okay, I'm just going to use the example of medicine because that's the one I know most about. So obviously with medicine, you think that, oh my god, you have so much to study and you need to apply all of this knowledge. So you're going to be studying, memorizing a bunch of information, but then you're also going to apply it. So this will help you in your career if you score well. And obviously, if you get the grades required for studying medicine in universities, for example, if I want to go to Oxford, I'm going to need 2 A stars and 1 A, a biochem and whatever science or math. And if I do well, if I do get accepted in that university, I can for example, get really good placements in hospitals, and that slowly can boost my career in the future. I have more chances of success. But then again, you also have other options for medicine. If you, for any reason, don't score well with your grades, your A-level grades or whatever, you can go for a foundation year. Even if you have C's, they will accept you. So in that sense also, grades don't matter too much, but it's not a reason to not study hard. You should study hard so that it can help you with your chances of success with the career you want. But this is more specific towards medicine. If, for example, you took a normal office job, or you were going to go for an office job, then your grades wouldn't really matter. They'd look more for your skills. So it really depends on where you're going to head in the future.
Bro, you know what? People who get C are the ones who run the business. People who get A, they work below us.
Yes, that's also there. Like, you don't need to be book smart in order to have your own business or whatever, because those are like a different skill. You don't get taught those in school. If you pick those up outside of school, then you'll do amazing with your own business or whatever. I think one way the school education is flawed is that they don't really teach you how to survive. Like, you see memes about how they teach you to count how many, I don't know, pineapples some dude's buying at the store, and you have no idea how to pay taxes. Like, those are some essential things the school should be teaching us in order to survive, but they're not. Like, I understand they can't spend their time teaching us those basics when we're doing A-levels or something, but in the lower grades they can. Like, if you can teach us, okay, for me at least, history was really boring. If you can spend your time teaching me something like history, which I have no interest in, I'm pretty sure you could spend some time teaching us skills we can use to survive in the real world.
I mean, so here's the thing people don't understand. I had said it in a very sarcastic way that people who get C run businesses and all of that. The reason is that people do not understand the fact that people who get C or a D are usually working for something bigger, something else, that what they think their purpose in the background. They're not just sitting and getting C's. They're doing something, which is why they're getting C's.
Yeah, but don't encourage it. I don't think we should encourage it, because sometimes, or I think most people, they misinterpret this information.
They misinterpret it a lot.
Like, they say, oh, the ones getting C's are the ones running the business. So I too am entitled to run a business if I get C and not really give much focus to my studies. I don't think so. I think this it can be very misinterpreted. It's more of where you direct your grind, or where you invest. Yeah, exactly, where you invest your time. So the ones getting C's are probably investing their time elsewhere, and they're reaping the fruits of those. But you're not going to become a business owner or an entrepreneur just by sitting back and letting yourself get C's and not invest time into learning skills that are essential to be an entrepreneur. Also, one other thing, like, since I've already hurt a lot of people, I'll hurt some more. So they often bring up the thing that a lot of entrepreneurs like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and whatnot, Mark Zuckerberg, they dropped out of college and they became billionaires, mashallah. Fam, they dropped out of top-ranked college like Harvard, not community colleges or some colleges run by some random dude. Okay, they were good enough to go there, so there's a reason why they dropped out, because they're better than the college itself.
They just ask you so the people who do the interview, they just know how to get the answers from you. They know how to check you. They're there for a reason. So they don't really check, which university you went to. They just check, do you really like study? Do you really want to study? Conspiracy about vaccines containing microchips or something. I mean, it's similar to the kind of conspiracy that this whole COVID is actually a planned something, and it's not just something that happened by accident.
That's at least a more believable conspiracy than your vaccines containing.
I mean, honestly, I don't even know how much to trust government at this point. Do you really trust anything that you see online?
To a certain extent, yes. If they start stating all like very unbelievable things, then obviously no. Like, if they start things like UFO sighting in India, Kerala, or caught on camera, or something like I don't know, it's something really absurd. I obviously wouldn't believe it. But the rest, I just suppose that there is no reason for the government to really lie to us, is there?
But there could be every other reason for government to lie to us.
State. State me. State me.
Okay. I mean, like, okay, so you know how dictatorship works?
Mm.
Okay, so dictatorship is this one person who literally controls the whole country. His decisions are final or something, right? So here's the thing. Okay, so game theorist explains it very well. And so basically what you need to know right now is that knowledge is power, okay? And if a dictator really wants to win his country, he needs to control the knowledge that goes around.
Yeah.
Okay, so if since government cannot come to you and be like, Tawheed, I am a government official, I'm going to control you, or they can come to Fatima that, Fatima, look, I am a government official, if I say you have to do something, then you have to do it. No, if they try that, that will not work, sure. But what they can do is just give you the information that they think you need to have to really act up in certain way. So they could literally come up to Fatima and be like, okay, so they won't say I'm a government official. They'll just post a lot of things online. They'll just put a lot of things around you that will make you act like that. And now this is not something new, you know, your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, which is that, you know, like, so okay, I'm just going to give you an experiment here, and then I think you'll be able to understand my view as well as you will be able to judge this whole thing properly. So this experiment was conducted by this psychiatrist, something of that sort, someone who works with the brain. So he called two artists and he just said that whatever you'll draw, I'll predict it before you draw it, or like when I'll have it predicted already. So what this person does is calls them at a certain date, certain time. It's like, you know, I'll invite you, you come as like guests, and you don't do the drawing. Okay, cool, everything seems fine. Now, when they go there, they draw this completely random bear, like a teddy bear kind of bear, in heavens. Okay, and the psychiatrist literally shows them a picture that he had drawn a long time before, where he literally pulls it off, and it's like a bear in heaven. Not exactly the same picture, but the whole idea, the whole portrait was the same thing. So it was like, you know, it's a bear in heaven. That was the whole concept that he drew, and this is the exact concept that this artist drew. And now you ask, how did he do that? What he did was basically these artists from coming from their homes to the office, right? Point A to B. Throughout the distance between point A to B, he put it a lot of subliminal messages about bears, about heaven, about literally whatever. It's like they are sitting in taxi, they're drinking coffee, they're not thinking about it. But you know, your mind can basically, your eyes can see 180 degrees in the surroundings. But whatever you focus at is what you see. But you know that there is something around you, right? So basically that. So they were like drinking coffee, they're using their phone, normal things. But around them, you know, there's a bear logo, there's a heaven picture around them. There's something that is completely just telling them that bear heaven, bear heaven. And when they go to the thing, they draw it. Since their subconscious mind has caught onto this whole idea of bear in heaven, they draw that, and this is what the artist predicted. So the point is, now this was a very small scale experiment done by 3 to 4 people, and documented. But imagine a superpower like your country's government doing that, and they are very well, they know how to do it, they can do it, and they probably are doing it. Whatever you see online, whatever you see outside your house, however you perceive it, it could very much be calculated.
I think the effect you're talking about, I know its exact term, it's just not coming to mind. But I agree with what you're saying, that yeah, sometimes they can subliminally imply some messages like that may and cause it to become more common in the future. Like, for instance, why now do we think about flying cars? It's been put in front of us for a long time, so that when it's released, it's something that we'll easily accept, right? I think that's what you're trying to say, right? That once, like, we can easily accept it when we've been exposed to it for so long. Like, even the whole the 9/11 thing, like the posters were on cartoons and whatnot, and then it happened, and it just made people more accepting of what just happened rather than
Yeah.
being completely oblivious to as to what just happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah, go on.
you were saying. Just say what you were saying. It's okay.
I mean, yeah, this is a way of government manipulating subliminally the minds of others, but again, I don't think so. It's like the government isn't doing it for other people's harms. Like, yes, they can imply some ideas and control the people in a wide scale or a large spectrum, but at the same time, they're not really wanting people's harms because even though they're the government running the country, it's the people that decide whether or not the country runs or not. It's the people that make the country, the people that make the majority of the country, and less of the government. The government just controls. It's the people that decide whether to comply or not, whether to agree or not. And I think some people, they just unnecessarily go against the government. Like, there are some things, yes, they do unreasonable, and you can go against it, or you can call out for what it is, like the bad, obviously. But sometimes people unnecessarily go against the government. And that's why I brought up the whole, the COVID-19 vaccine containing microchips and what causing autism and whatnot. If the government knew this, they wouldn't be distributing on a large scale. Like, the government wouldn't, even the government officials, they wouldn't be taking the vaccines themselves. Now, some people that are who overthink or are insecure, they'll be like, the government officials are being given different vaccines. It's just made to look as the same vaccine. Now, that's just you overthinking, because they're still taking the same vaccine, or that's what they at least say they are. Now, we can't go and confirm whether they're taking the same vaccines or not, and we don't even have the facilities nor the capital to test it out whether it's the same vaccine. You're being told what it is, so just accept it for what it is and just move on. You're not really doing anyone a favor by creating controversies.
I see. Fatima, what do you have to say about it?
Well, for me, there's not much that's different about what I want to express, but I just want to add on, and I mean no offense, but I feel like the people that go against the government, they're usually people that they don't sit well with the idea of someone that's on a higher level than them in terms of power can control them. Like, it comes down to trusting the government, because I know some people that would argue about the government doing this and that, you have no idea, you can't trust them, but that really comes from the fact that they don't want to put their faith in another human being, because they've had experiences with other human beings where things haven't gone well, like their trust was broken and all of that, blah, blah. But I think you just end up making things quite complicated for yourself when you start thinking about what if it's this, what if it's that. If you don't see any obvious problems with it, I don't think there should be a reason to spend all of your time and energy trying to do anything about it, like against it.
I see. You guys actually, I mean, I don't really have a specific point of view on this. I just try to juggle every idea. Now, when you guys say it, it makes me think about it completely differently. But now, if you just let me sit in the room for a minute, I'll start thinking about, oh, what if they have something in the chicken that we eat, and it makes us something.
I mean, okay, I'm not completely going against the idea. Always be open to second thoughts.
Yeah.
But okay, more importantly, what you brought up, the chicken containing something. Yes, a lot of the things we eat nowadays is genetically modified or selectively bred, and it's been done on such short notice. Like, it developed in the 20th century and has been more widespread in the 21st century. So we haven't been given enough time, or we haven't provided the scientists enough time to study, analyze the patterns, and identify trends, whether it's harmful for us or not. But so far, there isn't anything that's has been scientifically proven to be harmless, and we just have to go with that and continue just moving forward with the advice of the scientists, not come up with something from Google knowledge.
True. But it's like always. I think it's always gonna stay in the back of the head. It's that you really cannot. It's more of that hidden motives, like the whole I don't want to create another, sort of weird controversy to cut off another topic, but like, the whole 9/11 thing, how Tawhid said that there were subliminal messages around and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Mm.
Like, what exactly was the motive to really bring down two buildings like that? Like, other than, like the most obvious reason that we see around is that, oh, Islamophobia, this, that. But like, why would you really want that?
I think there
I thi-
really wasn't a motive. Like, there's different views to the story. So the first view is obviously the one put forth by the country itself, is that it was Muslims that hijacked the plane
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they caused the crash for rebellion against America. That's a possible reason. It could be true. At the same time, some people say that it's George Bush that planned this attack to raise the concept of Islamophobia or fear against Muslims or something of the sort. Now that also is a plausible thing. We just wouldn't know. So it's better just not to think about it and just accept things for the way they are. The thing crashed and it caused a lot of hatred in the world. It's better just not to think about it and just move on. And to those that, represent or think that the small Muslims who quote unquote hijacked and caused 9/11 represent the whole of Muslim community, I suggest they think about they think otherwise.
I mean, of course, we could always just accept it and move on. I just think that everyone, or like most of the people, I think there is something about these controversies that just makes us want to, really dig deep into it. Like, you know how you said vaccines containing microchips? Now, this is a very absurd one, but you put it in the air, people will try to think about it, people will try to make sense out of it, and I don't know what that is, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
It is human nature to believe in a story. Okay? Now, okay, so the way I can put it, why does it involve in. It involves religion, okay, but like
It
the thing
always
is,
does. It always does.
it's okay. So I'm not trying to. Okay, I'll just
Okay, look, we'll
clarify
just
this.
dip
Okay,
into it and we'll dip out, okay?
that's literally what I'm going to do. I'm not trying to oppose any religion, and I'm not trying to say anything about religion. But in general, religion, by the end of the day, not that it is wrong, it is right. I'm not saying that, but it is a story that we believe in. Now, a story could be right, could be wrong. That's not the argument here. The point is that humans, when they believe in such stories, they sort of feel this power. They feel like they know, or like they came to a conclusion that's more than just, that's around, that people believe in. They feel different or unique in a way. I think that's exactly, what makes them really want to dig deeper into a lot of controversies, because they just think that this is one way to feel, intelligent, to feel the cleverest in the room, or feel just unique, that I've found the answer to something that nobody else did. So I think this is like one reason why these controversies or like these conspiracies are so, imitating, that you really want to get deep into those.
Yeah, I think it's also human nature to be more fond of and discuss the negative side of things rather than the positive side. A typical high school example that I can give you is rumors spreading. Like, anything can happen and people will just spread rumors about you, and the rumor will spread like wildfire, whereas the virtue will just be turned a blind eye upon.
Bro, been there, done that, and it's still, it's still this, like, ouch, why would you do that? Why would you say that? Because of you, my life has been ruined. I didn't study for 6 months because I was in a mental trauma because of you. But no.
Damn
You
fine.
had to do it. Atif did this to the teacher so that he could get this, and then he could get her number, and then bro, how did that make sense to you?
Bro, sometimes
you
you don't
suddenly
even
I have all the.
understand how it even comes up, like, and how does it make sense?
No,
It doesn't
look,
even make
it's
sense
like
sometimes.
Atif said good morning to this teacher, and now suddenly he has access to supervisor's laptop. This is how the rumors work. And the whole story in between, it could be any connection that makes sense.
Connection is Earth is flat. I propose.
It's a donut. Do not start. We don't want to argue here.
Polyhedron,
Religion, I could have
fam.
let it go, but
Polyhedron.
donut. It is. It has to be a donut. Fatima agrees with me. I know that.
I was a donut
Yeah, sure.
earther, but now I'm a
No,
polyhedron earther.
everyone agrees with me here. It's a donut,
Alright, fam, it's a donut.
fam.
I guess
I
that's the
just
most
feel that.
pleasing idea.
Yeah, I mean, look, donuts are beautiful. Earth is beautiful. Hence, Earth is donut.
It's a
Okay.
massive rock with water on it.
And water, a lot of water.
No, bro, it's okay. Water, no problem. But donuts, they have water in it. You know, like there is H2O in it. That's why it's so tasty. You don't realize.
Damn, bro.
So,
Okay.
bro, I just realized I think this is going to be the longest. Nah, because we have to cut a lot of parts. But this has to be one of the most interesting podcasts that I've ever done
Yeah.
with people, man.
Yeah,
And I
I
think it's
enjoyed
time
this
now.
so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Thanks for
I
having
feel
us,
like we
man.
should.
Thanks for having us.
Honestly, we'll hop on once again. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Like,
Next time,
Yeah,
come
inshallah.
up with like maybe we can come up with better topics.
yeah. For right now, I mean, like this is one of those topics that I think people don't think as important, but it really
It
needs
is.
to
It
be
is.
touched
Yeah.
upon
It is definitely.
because
Mhm.
what we look with Tanveer Vihanga, with Khizr and Musa, we talked a lot of art and a lot of that world that you want to be in and all that fantasy and all of that. But here we are talking practical life, which is like this is something you need to know.
Mhm.
Okay, regardless of what art you like or what beliefs you have, this is some real life shit that you
Mhm.
need to be aware of. And I
Mhm.
think you guys really put it in a very beautiful way. So like the first 40 minutes of our podcast is like very important for many people right here. Like they need to understand a lot of things. I personally need to take notes from this podcast. I know that.
Uh,
The GMM divided by X square basic knowledge. Atif didn't know that.
it's
He was like,
yeah. Again, just understand the basic.
yeah,
I won't teach, or we won't teach people how, or make people learn how to pay their taxes. But this is an area where I've thought about a lot. I'm pretty sure she has as well. She's very associated to me, so we have very similar, like, common thought patterns. And this is somewhere
yeah,
we think about. This is like
Yeah.
an area that we think a lot about because it's very unstable, and we try to stabilize it as much as possible. We try to leave as less as possible to luck and more to what we can control. So
yeah,
we are
true.
always open to discussing about things like this, like anything at all.
I have noticed that and I really love it. Not gonna lie, I really would love to have you guys once again later in a podcast. Inshallah, inshallah.
Inshallah to
Yeah,
that.
I'd love that too.
So for now, that's all, folks. Bye.
Alright, Brian. Bye. Take care.
No, don't cut it off. Okay, I'm saying bye to the audience.
Okay, bye. I know. I know.
Okay, yeah.